Shrek has been a cultural phenomenon for 20 years. The first movie was a huge success and an instant classic. The entire series is extremely memeable, so much so it could compete with SpongeBob. The first Shrek movie is spectacular. It's 90 minutes of pure fun and laughs. It also holds up really well writing-wise. DreamWorks knocked it out of the park with this one. Shrek 1 easily deserves all the praise it has received over the years. Even more profound is rewatching it. There is extra value in watching it as an adult. As a kid, it's already a funny movie, but due to all the hidden adult humor, it's even funnier watching it again all grown up. It works for all ages. Fiona's rescue sequence is the funniest part of the movie in my opinion. So much happens in such a short time, and the energy and dialogue of the characters is hilarious for the situation they're in, which affects their great chemistry for the better. The initial premise of the movie gets explored quite extensively. Not to sound like I'm making a joke here, but it defies fairy tale norms. I know that sounds like I'm parodying, but it really is what the movie does. It flips classic fairy tales on their head. They don't use generic, made-up fairy tales either. You can recognize every single fairy tale creature. They're the real deal. So why am I hammering the point about Shrek so much? Well, that's because, as fantastic and well made as the first Shrek movie is, its sequel still surpasses it. Shrek 1 was amazing. Shrek 2 is even more amazing still. That's how truly great this movie is. Unfortunately, the latter two movies do not live up to the first two. Shrek the Third is easily the worst of the four. To call it horrendous might be a bit strong. How about severely unenjoyable? If I watch all of these movies together again as I did for this video, I'm skipping the third one next time. There are very few jokes that land. Artie is the most uninteresting character in the series. Prince Charming is an annoying villain without Fairy Godmother to carry him. And there's just something about it that feels off and un-Shrek-like. I have little to say about Shrek Forever After. It's a perfectly decent watch. It's certainly better than Shrek the Third, but in no way does it stand amongst either Shrek or Shrek 2. It's in a nice, happy medium position. I do, however, think its ending was a good way to wrap the entire series. The movie has a lot of plot issues, but I genuinely enjoyed watching it. It's entertaining. Now that I've said my piece about the series as a whole, let's jump into actually supporting my thesis statement that Shrek 2 is the best Shrek movie. I suppose it would just be easiest to go in order of the film itself. We start off with the same wonderful opening as the first Shrek, the simple production credits on a black screen with what is legitimately one of my favorite movie scores of all time playing over it, followed by the storybook introducing later context. It's simple, yet effective because it follows the fairy tale aesthetic. Seriously though, Harry Gregson Williams did not have to go this hard, but he did. Then, once again following after its predecessor, we get a happy montage with an upbeat song accompanying it. Soon after Shrek and Fiona's honeymoon, however, we immediately run into the inciting incident that allows this hilarity of a film to begin. It doesn't start off as laugh-worthy though. Once Shrek learns he has to meet Fiona's parents, they have their first fight of the marriage and the film. Something that all the Shrek movies do well is relationship problems. Thinking about it as a whole, it's actually quite strange. The filmmakers really wanted to portray those experiences in a series of comedic kids movies? Okay, I guess. But hey, they do it well every time. Plus, they do soften the marriage problems with jokes, so it isn't completely depressing. Their other fight later on, though, is for sure the more consequential. It starts the path for the overall conflict in the film to take place. Not only that, but the dialogue is top-notch work. It feels like a real fight that could and did happen, and it stems from a problem that a married couple could face. Stellar work from the screenwriters there. I want to mention, I could stop between every topic I'm discussing, just pointing out all the great jokes throughout this movie. But since that would ridiculously pad this video, just assume that the scenes between the ones I'm speaking on are full of laughter. It's a safe bet for this movie. Back to the movie. The arrival scene into the kingdom of far, far away is astounding. First off, the fact that a medieval kingdom looks like Los Angeles has enough comedic value on its own. Then you add Funky Town by Lips Incorporated, and you've got quite the exciting entrance to LA. I mean, far, far away. Look, even the princesses have gated homes. There are also several pop culture references within this scene, which start off the many that are planted throughout the whole film. Here are some of the most notable ones. When Shrek and Fiona step out of the carriage, the crowd turning silent, followed only by the sound of a crying infant, is a funny way to show the awkwardness of the situation. Even though I could repeat, "This is one of the best scenes, this is one of the best scenes," over and over again, the dinner scene is one of two scenes that I cannot express enough how much I mean that. The dinner scene is easily the best written comedy sequence in the film. It is full of tension, laughs, character interactions, and natural progression of events. There is not a single dull moment when watching. Basically, it's incredibly concentrated, but works so well. Let me explain it this way. I'd love to show you just 10 seconds from this scene to make my point. But here's the thing. Any 10 seconds would be as strong as any other. If it's been a while since you've seen this movie, I would ask you just rewatch this scene in particular. If not the whole movie, of course. There isn't a sample I could use that's any better than another. That's how well made this scene is. To be specific, look how much is conveyed in these roughly 15 seconds.
Abundant in squirrels and cute little duckies and...
What? I know you ain't talking about the swamp.
Donkey.
An ogre from a swamp. Oh, how original.
Well, I suppose that will be a fine place to raise the children.
Alright, so Fairy Godmother is the best villain in this series. She may not be the funniest, I think that goes to Lord Farquaad, but she is absolutely the most competent. She's the type of villain where she's so good at driving the conflict and getting close to victory that you hate her. The good kind of hate you should have for a villain. Like a President Snow or a Bellatrix Lestrange. What is funny about her, though, and what I'm pretty sure the filmmakers were going for, is that she's like a mob boss. She has her business, her bodyguards, she deals under the table, and does everything she can to ascend her son to power. In this case, the throne. Prince Charming is a sort of side villain who, while his personality makes it easy to despise him, just follows along with Mommy's bidding. He's clearly spoiled, arrogant, and is a bit too much of a mama's boy for his age. The two of them together work well for the story. As I was saying, Fairy Godmother is superb at manipulation to get things moving her way, and actually comes very close to succeeding. She only fails because Harold has a change of heart in his attitude from the rest of the movie. That's how talented she actually is. Fairy Godmother drives her own fate and provides meaningful and natural conflict for our heroes. On the flip side of things, Lillian is perhaps the character with the most sense in this movie. She seems to be the wisest, but everyone is so stuck in their ways that they don't follow her advice. Remember, kids, listen to your mother. Shrek 2 is the movie that introduces Puss in Boots, and that introduction is done well. It subverts your expectations in a good way. Before we see him in full, Puss is portrayed to be this super qualified assassin. And then when we see him, he's just a cat. Then again, we see him actually cause some chaos to Shrek. Finally, since he is a cat after all, Shrek is able to overcome his fighting, and from then on, Puss is nowhere near a threat. Well, partly because they become friends, but still. It's also funny how Shrek finds Puss in Boots to be adorable, since he usually likes ugly and disgusting things. Especially since Donkey doesn't think he's cute. In fact, Donkey actually becomes jealous of Puss in Boots due to his and Shrek's joke-filled conversation. This leads us to the factory sequence. Similar to the dinner scene, this sequence is all hits. It's just a much longer scene, of course. For example, how Shrek, Donkey, and Puss manage to get in. This entire joke about them being from the Union is so creative and simply fits this movie so well. It's these types of jokes why the Shrek movies stand out. Their time at the factory also contributes more to the whole defying fairy tale norms thing I mentioned earlier. Now, this is something I should have mentioned earlier, but my oh my, the soundtracks in these movies were chosen so well. I would make the claim Shrek 1 and 2 were the Guardians of the Galaxy before Guardians of the Galaxy. Each song they use is not only a great song on its own, but fits so perfectly with the scene it's placed in. These songs are a large part of why these films are so much fun to watch. A few scenes back, there's an entire joke about Harold's disguise not being enough, and everybody was recognizing him. Because, yeah, of course they would. I'm glad this scene continues that joke. Handsome Shrek! Handsome Shrek! Yet another home run. These filmmakers did not miss when it came to this movie. The reactions, the attention from the women in the barn, Donkey loving life, Fiona freaking out. Just the fact alone that Shrek is now a handsome human. This scene has so much going for it, and I enjoy every moment. The positive attention Shrek receives riding into Far, Far Away is so significant for him. As an ogre, he's so used to people being scared or thinking he's hideous that this newfound adoration is literally the complete opposite of what he's gotten his whole life. You can see both the confusion, unease, and final acceptance from his facial expressions as the scene continues. Unfortunately for Shrek, Fairy Godmother takes advantage of this plan, and thus we see her at her worst. Or her best, but we hate her the most for it. Do you know how nice it is to have a plot work so well and be due to the character's actions instead of random events? Ah, bliss. Goodness gracious! This parody of the TV show Cops is seriously top tier comedic content for a PG movie. I would love to have been a fly on the wall in the writer's room when they were concocting up this isolated parody. Nights was definitely placed here for the parents watching with their kids, but that does not set it back in any way. It is pure originality. Everyone chilling at Shrek's house as a whole is great on its own, to be honest. Man, this movie is great.
Catnip.
That's no mine.
Nights transitions us to the prison where our heroes are being held, and we hear what I think is one of the best jokes in the entire series.
Nobody said I have the right to remain silent.
Donkey, you have the right to remain silent. What you lack is the capacity.
In fact, basically every joke that's told in the short time they're here is funny. Here it is, the part I've really been waiting for. Remember when I referred to the dinner scene as one of two scenes in this film that I cannot express enough how great it is? Well, this finale is that other one. This finale is straight up wild. There's a reason it's on the thumbnail. As I describe, it is simply flat out fun. To start, there is genuine and exciting action. It's paced perfectly. The cross-cutting between our characters actually heightens the stakes, and the song choice makes everything hype. I mean, seriously, Fairy Godmother covering an absolute banger of a song, and, in my humble opinion, creating the superior version, sets the tone for the entire sequence and represents the sheer fun this movie is. I Need a Hero was the perfect song choice, and having our antagonist perform it during all the craziness of the finale was mind-blowing. And, oh yeah, almost forgot Mongo! Need I say more? I think Mongo speaks for himself. The finale is truly what solidifies the quality of this film. Too often, finales are what can ruin or at least lessen the quality of an otherwise great movie. Not in this case. Shrek 2's finale only strengthens it. I can't get over how fun and exciting it manages to be, especially culminating after so much meaningful content. In the end, it's kind of an underdog story. Shrek was able to prevail after everything was against him. Nothing was going his way since arriving in Far, Far Away. But he stuck with it, fought for what he knew was right, and ended up winning it all. We also get to see a true test of Fiona's love for Shrek by her not falling for Prince Charming, despite not knowing who he was. Fiona never fell for the trick that he was supposed to be handsome Shrek, thus confirming her devotion and sincerity to her husband.
'Cause if you kiss me now, we can stay like this.
You do that? For me?
Yes.
Aww.
I want what any princess wants. To live happily ever after. With the ogre I married.
Aww.
Hey, you still look like a noble steed to me.
Hey, Shrek compliments Donkey. Now you know he actually cares. On a couple of smaller notes, learning that Harold had skeletons in his closet wasn't just some cheap plot twist. It actually gave more context to his schemes throughout the movie, and adds to why he made the decisions he did. Especially his redemption arc, I suppose you could call it. This was a neat reveal for sure. Shrek 2 is one of the best examples of a sequel outdoing its predecessor. I mean that. It only improves on what came before, and what came before was already golden. I can tell the filmmakers were passionate during production. The film just gives off a certain feeling and confidence. The creators expanded upon the world building from the first movie and evolved Fiona's background as more was revealed. The best part of all of that is that it doesn't raise any inconsistencies. These new revelations don't retcon or contradict anything that came before. It all flows and works together. That's how you know the creators cared. This movie really is something special. A diamond in the rough, if you will. It's a shame the successor fell so hard. At least the final chapter was a satisfying and real closing, unlike sequel bait. But these first two movies are spectacular, and I will always give them a rewatch. Well done, DreamWorks. Well done. Captain Hook is the Piano Man confirmed. Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoy my content, consider following any or all of the actions on the screen. All links are in the description below. I truly appreciate your support. Until next time, hobos.